Brother bullied my sister our entire lives, he now isn't invited to her wedding, and my parents face a hard truth. I'm a 33-year-old woman, and I've always had a complicated relationship with my younger brother, Mike, who's 31. Honestly, Mike's always been a bit of a knob, babied by our mom and dad until he's almost useless. He grew up as their golden boy because he showed early promise in rugby, which convinced my parents he was destined to be some kind of superstar. The real problem, though, is that Mike never had any work ethic, and despite all the privilege and praise, he never became anything but an entitled slob. While my parents saw him as perfect, he was a bully at school, something they brushed off as lies other kids made up. At home, he was an even bigger bully to our youngest sister, Kelly, who's 31 now. He would prank her in some truly humiliating ways, like the time he pulled her dress up in front of the entire family at a wedding when she was only 15. My parents laughed it off as regular sibling behavior, but I'll never forget the horrified looks on everyone else's faces. I did my best to protect Kelly while I was around, but once I left for university, there was little I could do, especially since my parents just never listened. Things got so toxic that, when she was 18, Kelly completely gave up on her dream of going to St. Andrews, something she'd wanted since she was 11, just to get further away from home. Instead, she moved to London to attend Imperial College. When I asked her why, she told me it was because St. Andrews was too close, and she'd be pressured to come home more. London gave her an excuse only to return for Christmas. My heart absolutely broke for her. True to her word, once she left, Kelly kept her distance, coming home only for Christmas and when I got married. Mom and Dad grumbled endlessly about her abandoning the family, but I kept my head down. When Kelly graduated, my parents expected her to move back, but she stayed in southern England for work. For context, we're all from Scotland. 6 years ago, Kelly's life changed when she met Jake, who's 30. The day she met him, she called me just bursting with excitement. I'd never heard her talk about anyone like that. After meeting him myself several times, I was nothing but impressed. Jake is handsome, funny, has a great job, and his family is lovely. Most importantly, he treats Kelly like she hung the moon. It's honestly adorable. Once Jake was in the picture, Kelly stopped coming home even for Christmas. She spent her first Christmas with Jake's family, and then the pandemic hit, meaning she didn't come home at all for 3 years. When she finally did return for a holiday, Mike immediately reverted to his old ways, desperate for attention. But this time, the family was more interested in meeting Jake, which frustrated Mike. In one final attempt to prank Kelly, he tried sneaking up with a bowl of water, planning to dump it on her. Jake saw what was happening, stepped protectively in front of Kelly, and told Mike not even to think about it. Small side note, Jake is 6 feet 3 inches and has trained in martial arts since he was 4. He can be quite intimidating when he wants. My parents tried to brush it off as harmless fun, but Jake was having none of it. Mike started whining about it just being a joke. Jake shut him down in a second, promising that if Mike pranked Kelly again, Jake would prank him by putting his foot up his arse and his fist down his throat. Kelly and Jake left about an hour later, and after that, Mike, and, to my infinite frustration, my parents, had an issue with Jake. Kelly hasn't been back home since. Now, Kelly and Jake are getting married, and they sent out their wedding invitations in February for an August wedding. They didn't invite Mike, and, predictably, my mother and father lost their minds. A huge argument broke out. Mom and Dad threatened not to go. Kelly just shrugged and said Granddad could walk her down the aisle instead. I dropped by their house that weekend with my kids, and the minute I stepped in, Mom immediately started ranting about Kelly and the wedding. I sat and listened as long as I could before I lost my patience. I finally asked her, what exactly did she expect? She and Dad had enabled Mike, making him their golden child and letting him get away with everything. Now, he can't hold down a relationship because he expects everyone to cater to him, can't keep a job because he thinks it's all beneath him, and he's still living at home with zero prospects. He's a man-child bully, who I don't even trust around my own children unsupervised. Kelly spent her entire teenage years bullied by him, and her only escape was to move 400 miles away and never come back. At that, my mom went silent and asked me to leave. A few hours later, Dad called me, furious because I'd upset my mom and was supporting an ungrateful little girl rather than the parents who gave me everything. That unlocked years of pent-up frustration. I told him exactly what I thought, that he'd been a terrible father to Kelly and didn't deserve to walk her down the aisle. And now, extended family is chiming in, some telling me I went too far, since my mom is barely speaking to anyone and is always crying. Granddad, on the other hand, said it was about damn time someone told my parents the truth, though my grandma is, understandably, upset by all the conflict. The bottom line? My sister is standing firm. She's not changing her mind. My parents aren't going to her wedding, no matter what. She only invited them in the first place because it seemed like the right thing to do. Granddad will walk her down the aisle, and that's that. I've decided that we're visiting my husband's family every other year, but honestly, that arrangement might just become every year from now on. Update 1. I'm the oldest of 3, and growing up, things between me and my younger brother Mike were normal sibling rivalry, just words back and forth, nothing serious. That all changed after I left for university. Once I was out of the house, the pranks Mike started pulling on our younger sister Kelly escalated, but by then, I wasn't around to stop it. I tried speaking to our parents, but they were absolutely useless. Nothing ever got resolved. My 2 kids rarely visited my parents' house. They always complained about it being boring, and neither of them liked Mike. After hearing so many comments from others, I finally sat my daughter and son down and asked them directly. My daughter confirmed she still just finds it boring, and thinks Mike is a weirdo. My son surprised me. He admitted he doesn't like visiting my dad because my dad constantly tries to make him play rugby. I'd told my dad before to knock it off, but apparently, the comments kept coming. My son wants nothing to do with sports. Just like his dad, he's way more interested in Pokemon, playing online and spending his Thursday evenings at our local card shop's tournaments. Rugby is absolutely off the table for him. I also spoke with Kelly and her fiancé Jake about security for their wedding, just in case. Jake reassured us, 2 of his groomsmen are police officers, totally aware of the family situation. That put my mind at ease. Looking back, Mike wasn't always the golden child. Only after his rugby talent was revealed did my parents start treating him as if he was extra special, like his achievements reflected on them, making them special by proxy. Today, I finally confronted my parents and told them I needed a break. No sooner had I arrived than my dad demanded I apologize to my mom, but I refused. We went back and forth, and then my mom demanded to know why I was there if not to apologize. I told them plainly, after speaking to Kelly, it was clear they weren't welcome at the wedding. Kelly didn't want them there, and they needed to respect that. They were unhappy, but accepted that they wouldn't attend where they weren't wanted. Then I told them I needed space from all of them, at least until after the wedding. I just couldn't keep biting my tongue around them. My mom started in on not being able to see my kids, so I let her have the honest truth. My kids hate visiting, and I told my dad exactly why my son feels uncomfortable. My dad was upset and insisted rugby would be good for him, but I shut it down hard. I'm not going to force my son into something he hates, and I told my dad that if he ever brings it up again around my son, visits are over, end of story. For now, they'll only see the kids at family events, so hopefully it won't be an issue going forward. Then I brought up Mike. I asked them point blank, what's their plan? Were they planning to live like this until they're 90, with my mom still catering to Mike's every need? Who would take care of Mike once they're gone? Because it sure as hell won't be me. If anything happened to them, Kelly lives down south, and I'm planning to move back to my husband's hometown, 3 hours away, once my kids are grown. Mike is absolutely incapable of looking after himself. They just stared at me, completely blank, like they'd never considered any of this before. I told them they had set Mike up to fail, and now they needed to face the consequences of their choices. I also brought up their will. Yes, I know they're leaving everything to him, but I told them the hard truth. The way they've babied Mike, he'll blow through all that money in less than a year, and then what? I saw the panic in my mom's eyes. Either she hadn't considered it, or she thought I'd somehow pick up the slack. Now she knows that's not happening. I also think she was shocked that I knew about the will. After making it clear what low contact with me was going to look like, I left. They were unhappy, but I hope I've finally given them something to think about. I'll check in occasionally, but that's it for now. I'm planning to visit Kelly in a couple of weeks, and honestly, I'm looking forward to getting away from all the family drama. As for my extended family, they've finally backed off after I sent a group text. If they're so worried about my mom, they can step up to support her and deal with Mike, just like Kelly and I have done for years. Unsurprisingly, none of them volunteered. Now, I'm just focused on living my life as normally as I can. Some people manage to inherit their parents' house, keep it in the family, and thrive because of good planning and responsibility. Others, coddled all their lives and handed a fortune or a home, end up losing it within years, failing to pay taxes, letting the property fall apart, or losing it to the bank after taking out loans for some quick cash and not managing any of it properly. And after seeing how my parents handled things, I know exactly which path Mike will go down. Update 2. The last few weeks have truly been a wild ride, and just when I thought things might finally calm down between my family and me, the universe delivered its own brand of dramatic timing. I've been eager to visit Kelly and Jake, anticipating a weekend of normalcy and laughter, but things spiraled almost immediately after my last check-in. It all started with our extended family group chat suddenly springing back to life, bombarding both Kelly and me with a barrage of messages. Why can't you just be the bigger person for your mother's sake? The catalyst, I soon learned, had been a Sunday lunch at my parents' house, where Mom put on her best performance yet. She broke down in tears, lamenting the fractured family, while Mike, always the master of melodrama, announced that since he wasn't wanted anywhere, he might as well move to Spain. He stormed out, slamming the door for maximum effect. Naturally, word of Mike's threat to relocate reached one of my aunts, who promptly called me, half convinced he was seconds away from vanishing abroad. Never mind that Mike can barely manage public transport, let alone orchestrate an international move. Every family needs its drama king. Just a few days later, Mom phoned me at her emotionally manipulative best. She opened with, "I hope you're happy. Your sister has ruined your brother's mental health. He's talking about moving out and we don't even know what he'd do to himself." Cold as ice, she then shifted gears, interrogating me about Kelly's hen weekend location, desperate to find out where it was, as though Scotland was still an option for a surprise parental invasion. I told her that if Mike was truly struggling, perhaps she should help him seek professional help instead of weaponizing guilt against Kelly. Apparently, that was my cue. Mom accused me of scheming to cut them out and steal Kelly for myself, as if Kelly were some kind of trophy rather than a grown woman who set boundaries over a decade ago. I refused to discuss it further and hung up. 2 days later, things hit a whole new level. My husband came home early from work, frazzled and with the kids in tow. Mom had shown up at my son's school pickup, completely unannounced. She didn't cause a full-blown scene, but she intercepted them, forcefully attempting to convince my son to come round to watch a Scotland rugby match. My son, ever the pragmatic, simply said, "No, thank you, Grandma," and thankfully my husband arrived just in time. That was my final straw. I texted Mom in no uncertain terms. If she did anything like this again, I'd go no contact and seek help regarding her behavior at my children's school. That night, things took another sharp turn. My grandma, Dad's side, nearly in tears, rang me. She'd just had my dad around, ranting about me brainwashing everyone, and she didn't know what to do. By the time I arrived, Dad had left, but Grandma was distraught, voicing her fears. "Your dad's angrier than I've ever seen, your mom's barely eating, and Mike, well, he's sleeping till noon and going out all night," and they're at their wits' end. Sitting there, I finally recognized two simple truths. 1. My parents constructed this house of cards, and 2. Kelly and I are adults now, with our own families and happiness to protect. I explained to Grandma that neither Kelly nor I had ever been treated fairly. Everything we did to keep the peace was on their terms, and it never changed anything. Grandma listened quietly and then did something unprecedented. She told me, "If you and Kelly can't make peace with them, maybe that's not your fault. Maybe this is what it looks like when the generational tides begin to shift." Fast forward to Kelly and Jake's wedding planning trip, a weekend I'd eagerly awaited. I arrived without the kids, and we indulged in wine, Thai food, and playlist debates, getting genuinely silly. For the first time in ages, I saw Kelly completely relaxed, the tension gone from her shoulders. We discussed the wedding guest list and the latest drama. Through a cousin, Mike had threatened to crash the wedding to prove a point. The same Mike who was supposedly fleeing to Spain was now plotting to storm the ceremony. Cousin Lee, ever the neutral party, even texted Jake with a warning. Jake and Kelly swiftly contacted the venue. Reassurances came. Jake's police officer friends would keep order, and if Mike gatecrashed, he'd be swiftly escorted off the property. Kelly, with newfound humor, laughed, "He can try, but he won't get past Tom or Austin." The very next day, Kelly's phone lit up with messages. Mom, using Dad's phone, sent a string of old family photos, each captioned either "Remember when we were all happy?" or "We'll be thinking of you on your special day, wishing we could be part of your life." Emotional blackmail in JPG format. Jake offered to respond with a blunt message, "Dear Mrs. X, please refer to previous instructions regarding wedding attendance," but Kelly ignored the texts. We sat together, sipping Prosecco, scrolling through photos of our parents looking smug and youthful, and agreed, these people would never let go without a spectacle. The conversation turned serious later that afternoon. Kelly confided that she'd begun consulting a therapist, not for herself, but worrying about how our parents would manage after the wedding, especially if Mike did move out. He'd never survive without their heated towel rail. She asked me if it was wrong to cut our parents out for good. I told her the truth. "No, you did the only thing you could. Maybe it's time Mom and Dad realized children are not insurance policies against loneliness." We decided, once and for all, that any future drama or boundary crossing would be met with consequences, not apologies. Then, another twist unfolded. Jake called in a rush. Someone had called the venue, pretending to be Kelly, fishing for information about timing, entrances, and the decor for family reasons. The staff, to their credit, picked up on it immediately: wrong accent, odd email, weird questions about menu choices, and flagged it to Jake. Not long after, Mike's Facebook updated: a suitcase, passport, and the cryptic status: "Def gonna have a better summer than some people, see you in the sun." Soon, 3 aunts texted me congratulations for helping Mike find his independence at last. Honestly, if he makes it further than Newcastle, let alone Spain, I'll be amazed, but at least he'll be out of the country during the wedding. So that's where I stand, relieved, slightly stunned, but unexpectedly hopeful. Kelly is in her element, the wedding is protected, and while my parents are reeling, maybe, just maybe, things are starting to settle. My kids are happier than ever. My youngest organizes Pokemon nights, my son brags about never having to play rugby again, and my daughter calls our low-drama home her favorite place in the world. My only regret is that these boundaries took so long to hold, but finally, we're forging something healthier, even if it means letting the old ways burn. For the first time, Kelly and I are laughing at the absurdity, planning for our futures, and making our own families the priority. Update 3. If I thought things couldn't get more surreal, I clearly underestimated the powers of my parents' denial, Mike's knack for melodrama, and what my husband now calls the boomerang effect, that uncanny ability of my family to come hurtling back into my life, stronger and even more illogical each time I think I've finally thrown them out far enough. With just 3 weeks left till Kelly's wedding, the family group chat has ramped up from a background annoyance to full-blown DEFCON 2. After Mike's dramatic Facebook status, "See you in the sun," I admit, even I checked EasyJet for departures to Spain, just to be sure. Everyone in the extended clan seemed certain he was bound for Ibiza and a life of moody beach selfies. Instead, the reality was pure Mike. By Friday morning, a neighbor reported seeing my parents wrestling an enormous suitcase into their car, arguing about airport parking. Mum actually drove him to the train station, watched him board the Aberdeen train, and waved goodbye as if saying farewell to a brave explorer. By 2 p.m., my phone buzzed. Mike tagged you in a post. There he was, in a Travelodge in Newcastle, eating Greggs, with a bottle of WKD Blue, his Mediterranean exile, complete with a sad sausage roll. Meanwhile, my grandma insisted on meeting for coffee, a meeting that became a 3-hour confessional. She's terrified. Mum now carries framed family photos everywhere for comfort, while Dad rants to anyone within earshot about losing both daughters in one fell swoop. Grandma confided that Mum spends her days logging onto Kelly's public wedding website, desperately hoping for some sign of reconciliation. On the latest visit, Mum actually asked to borrow something old, but sad, for the day of the wedding, to remind everyone of what's been lost. It's like living in an Oscar-worthy tearjerker, only with more sulking and less self-awareness. Kelly has become a force of nature. She fields apology texts from cousins, sorry about Uncle Mike, we know he can be a pain, plus updates from the venue about increasingly bizarre phone calls. What color will the table runners be? Asking for the bride's father, is my personal favorite. Kelly finally called the head event planner, explained our unique brand of family chaos, and received the best reassurance ever. I've done Russian oligarch weddings and once ejected a goat from the dance floor. Your brother does not scare me. I believed her. Mum's latest masterstroke was a 10-paragraph email to me, subject line before it's too late. It began with, you may think you know everything, but you'll never understand a mother's heartbreak. She recounted every birthday party she'd ever thrown for us, bemoaned that you girls never needed us the way Mike did, and concluded with, one day you may need family too. Think before you cut us out for good. As a finishing touch, she attached a PDF of a floral-bedecked poem on forgiveness. I didn't answer, so 3 hours later, she texted my children directly. Grandma still loves you. If you want to call or visit, anytime, you know how to reach us. We have special new snacks in. My daughter, sensible as ever, came to me and confided she didn't want to reply. I don't even like their snacks, Mom, they don't have the good biscuits. Honestly, my kids are more emotionally grounded than half my family. Jake, meanwhile, has entered full battle mode. After a cousin tried to hand me a USB stick labeled family photos for Mike's healing in Tesco, Jake calmly laid out a plan: 2 professional security staff at the wedding, 3 off-duty police friends as backup, and a second minibus as a getaway vehicle if anyone tries to cause drama. He's also started collecting documentation, a crazy file of every emotional sabotage attempt, just in case things turn legal. 2 days ago, the final act arrived, a handwritten letter from Mum addressed to me, with an insert from Mike. His words, I am sorry if my actions hurt people, but I just want to be included. This isn't how family is meant to be. Maybe one day you'll forgive me. In the meantime, I'm sure this wedding will be boring without me. With it? A photo of Mike in a Spanish football shirt, on a bench near what is unmistakably Aberdeen's seafront. But the real turning point was Kelly's hen weekend. Instead of a wild party, she hosted a quiet house rental with her closest friends, Jake's sister, and me, just food, laughter, and a bonfire out back. We toasted marshmallows, sang embarrassing old karaoke favorites, and, near midnight, Kelly did something remarkable. She read aloud a letter she had written to Mike but decided not to send. Raw, honest, forgiving, yet resolutely firm. I hope you figure out who you are, and what it means to be part of a family. But I can't do that work for you. We all teared up. But it was cathartic. For the first time in years, I think we all let go of the idea that every sibling bond can, or should, be fixed. Our goal isn't revenge anymore, just peace. Today, as I write this, Kelly is finalizing RSVPs, including one from Mike's ex, excited not to see any of the in-laws. Jake is prepping wedding playlists, my kids are busy crafting Pokemon decorations, and I finally have space to focus on my own happiness and family. I know not everything is resolved. My mother is likely orchestrating some sort of accidental run-in at the wedding, or plotting a social media guilt campaign. But our boundaries are now ironclad. If my parents or Mike turn up at the venue, security deals with it. If any more guilt-laden letters arrive, straight to the crazy file. Here's what I've finally learned: you can't build a future in a house constructed from guilt and denial. Sometimes, you have to set it all alight, toast your marshmallow, and start anew with people who actually respect you. And don't force your children into unwanted rugby matches. Kelly, I can't wait to see you walk down the aisle on your own terms, surrounded only by those who protect your joy. As for Mom, Dad, and Mike, may they someday find peace, or at least, learn to make their own toast. Update 4. Phew. Wedding month has finally arrived, and if anyone had asked me back in January whether the next few weeks would be brimming with the kind of nuclear family antics you only ever hear about in stories of familial disaster, I would have laughed and said, no one could possibly keep up that level of drama. But clearly, I'd underestimated the never-ending stamina of my golden child family system, hell-bent on creating chaos until the very end. Let me take you through the whirlwind since my last update. Grab some tea and buckle up. First thunderclap. About a week after the hen do, Kelly received an unexpected message, not from Mike, but from the most recent of his rotating mates, a guy I refer to as Oily Dan. He'd been tagging along with Mike on his failed Spain adventure, which, predictably, ended up going nowhere and fizzled out in Northumberland. Oily Dan reached out to Kelly directly, offering some half-baked, cosmic apology on Mike's behalf. And then, without missing a beat, he asked if he could just swing by the wedding for a bit. His reason? There's nowhere decent to meet chicks up north. When Kelly sent me the message, we both burst out laughing. Now Mike was deploying wingmen like our lives had become a Channel 5 lad documentary. It was almost a relief. At least someone else was keeping eyes on Mike, and his efforts seemed more focused on complaining to strangers than actively plotting against us. Still, security at the wedding became a very real budget item. Then came the grandparents' maneuver. My parents had achieved martyr status throughout half our extended family's group chat, and my mom, who missed her calling in amateur theater, I swear, decided it was time for a change in tactics, the health scare. I got a frantic call from Aunt Shelley, who relayed what Mom had told her. She's in hospital, heart tests, nothing certain yet, but she's very stressed. Was there a real hospital visit? Sort of. Mom spent 2 hours at the GP for what the medical summary called mild palpitations, which Mom referred to as the agony of a divided heart. This setback didn't stop her from baking a lemon drizzle cake for the neighbor an hour later. Nevertheless, I reached out and sent a genuinely concerned message. Hope you feel better. Your health is important. If you're really unwell, please get help. Her immediate response? Another photo of her and Mike at his 21st birthday, captioned when families were together. Even Grandma groaned whenever her phone buzzed. Meanwhile, Kelly had quietly blocked both our parents on everything except email, per her therapist's advice. She now forwards me the most creative subject lines for our private entertainment: consequences of alienation, your wedding, our grief, and, my personal favorite, simply, why? But the real hurricane struck last weekend. I was elbow deep in the laundry when my daughter called me over, bewildered. She pointed to her laptop. Mom, why is Uncle Mike making TikToks about us? My heart sank. It turned out that during his exile, Mike had discovered TikTok and launched an account under the subtle name Scott's King Mike. He'd posted a dozen videos, some rambling monologues about family betrayal, others full of cryptic jabs at snakes and traitor sisters ruining his big plans, and even one mysterious video of him dancing on a beach with a WKD blue. The video that truly caused a stir was his stitched rant over a wedding's gone wrong montage, where he basically named Kelly and Jake, boasting that some people are about to get a surprise on their big day. He captioned it, "Family's family, whether they like it or not." It didn't take long for local acquaintances to flag it to us. Jake found it both hilarious and slightly chilling. Not because Mike was a real threat, by then, security was briefed and came armed with screenshots, but because, if you squinted, it looked like the saddest promo ever for a bachelor in crisis. We handled it the best way possible, with a TikTok tutorial for the over 30s accompanied by Prosecco, a lot of laughter, and a hard block. As wedding prep hit final furious mode, another twist emerged. The venue called. Apparently, a Mr. Smith had phoned, fishing for information about available rooms for close family who might want to reconcile on the day. When politely refused, he shouted, "I know my rights," and demanded to speak to the manager of the bride. The venue was amazing, keeping detailed logs, recording calls, and even sending us the info by email in case the police needed to get involved. The whole situation would be ridiculous if it weren't also completely predictable. But here's where it peaked. Mike didn't stop at TikTok and prank calls. His tour de force came as a group email, boldly titled "A Family Plea for Reunification." It went out to everyone. Me, Kelly, Jake, Mom, Dad, Grandma, and cousins who hadn't spoken in years. It read like a novella, and was even less coherent. It rambled through paragraphs of self-pity. "I always thought my sisters loved me, but turns out blood isn't thicker than weddings." Attempted logic: "I may have made mistakes but no one is perfect and maybe Kelly is the one who needs to grow up." Thinly veiled threats: "It would be a shame if something happened to ruin the best day of your life. Karma is real," plus a misquoted line from The Godfather. The family group chat nearly combusted. Grandma, ever the wise matriarch, replied in 5 minutes, "Mike, learn to say sorry properly. That's all anyone wants. She's my hero." In response, Jake called a wedding war room at their house. We made the official decision to have a legal no trespass letter delivered to my parents and Mike, complete with the venue's policies. Jake, ever the diplomat, hand-delivered them himself, the most courteous eviction notices you could imagine. Then, unexpectedly, a shift. Mom stopped sending messages. She went silent on social media, didn't answer Grandma's calls. Dad did the same. Then about 5 days ago, we got a short, crisp letter from Dad: "We respect your wishes. We will not be attending your wedding. We hope you know we did our best." It was, for as long as I can remember, the first message from Dad devoid of accusation, manipulation, or demands. Kelly cried, partly out of relief, but also because it felt, somehow, like the end of a chapter. The wedding is now 10 days away. RSVPs are final, and no drama cousins or ominous Smiths are sneaking onto the list. Even Mike, having exhausted TikTok's patience, seems to have vanished on what he's calling a digital cleanse. Read, account banned. Grandma's still coming and has wisely paid a neighbor to water her garden in case someone tries to sabotage the plants out of spite. Her words, not mine. We're ready. The playlist is locked, Pokemon theme included, by popular demand. The cake is adorned with more fondant Pikachus than flowers. For the first time in ages, I bought a new dress without worrying about ruined cocktails or family scenes. My son practices his toast, my daughter is making a sign for the entrance. No rugby, no drama, just love. Here's the wildest part, for the first time in years, I woke up without that gnawing sense that something was about to go wrong. And if it does? We'll handle it. Because, as my daughter wisely wrote and taped to our fridge, people who can't learn to be kind lose out on the best adventures. I genuinely don't know what will become of my relationship with my parents or Mike after this. Maybe they'll stay radio silent, or maybe they'll reboot the emotional guilt Olympics. But it just isn't my job to fix anymore. Kelly will have her wedding, the one she's fought for, on her own terms. We will dance, laugh, and for one wonderful day, live free of the old family chains. If there's fallout, I'm ready. But this doesn't feel like just standing my ground anymore, it feels like moving forward, at last. And if you hear rumors of a lone man in a Spanish football shirt with blue vodka storming a wedding in Scotland, rest assured, we're ready for anything.